My name is Joey, and this is the Gandee Show. Today, I want to talk to you for a minute about transformation. I have another just incredible submission from somebody that is very near and dear to my heart. Let's talk about this. When it comes to addictive behaviors, we learn tactics or use ones we already had that support our survival mode. There are a variety of these that we condition ourselves into understanding what works and what doesn't to survive in our chaotic environment. Some of us are better at certain tactics than others. When we move towards recovery, these tactics can actually be transformed into positive skills. Yes, absolutely. I say this all the time. The amount of tenacity it takes to maintain any kind of addiction, if you could take a quarter, a half of that and put it towards something like this, something like what I'm doing, or something like anything that's positive, something that could help somebody other than yourself, you're going to go to the moon. Yes. When we move towards recovery, these tactics can be actually transformed into positive skills. Initially, I had to try different tactics to figure out what worked for me in sustaining my addiction. When I started my recovery journey, this type of practice served me in figuring out what was going to work to sustain my recovery. Interesting how that works. Very, very interesting. I can totally relate to that. Something I've learned in recovery is that you have to have a foundation. You cannot build your foundation on sand. You have to build it on bricks and mortar. The first time I tried to get sober, I didn't build any kind of foundation. It was just like sticky notes. That was my foundation. My foundation was like my foundation was like the headlights on a monster truck. They didn't work. It was just a sticker. It just looked like a foundation. It was false, because all I was doing was just trying to check boxes and say the things that needed to be said so that I could get out of wherever I was at and get back to what I knew, my addiction. Man, it's so, thinking back on that, it's like, that took a lot of energy to do that. And it set me back. I could be a year further than what I am right now, right? I cannot dwell on those thoughts because it wasn't my path. Everything that happened exactly like it did to sit me exactly where I'm at in front of this camera, talking to anybody who wants to listen. And that's exactly where I want to be. So, but yes, it's very interesting how that works. And I'm so glad you pointed that out. My most prominent harmful tactic during addiction was becoming a master of manipulation. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that. It served me to get what I needed to maintain my supply and needs. I also used it to get myself out of trouble in risky situations. That can be helpful. I used it in my favor to the extreme without considering how it may be hurtful to others. I thought that if I was able to get others to willingly hand me what I needed, I wasn't hurting anyone. Besides, I wasn't stealing it, right? Now I realize how misguided that belief was. I am sure there are many others out there who can relate to this. I can relate to this. 100%. 100%. However, I have forgiven myself, which was necessary to be able to move forward. And why is that necessary? Because if you want any chance at making an amends with these people and bettering your life and just becoming a decent human being, because really, like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? You can only wake up to serve yourself for so long. It is not sustainable. It leads to emptiness. It leads to nothingness. I can personally relate and attest to that. I was misguided for a lot of years also, and also put into situations to where I had to think like that. I was surviving. But I'm happy to say that I'm in a place now that I do not have to think like that. I'm not in survival mode. I'm not looking over my shoulder. I'm not fighting for my life. Okay? So like, if you are fighting for your life right now, I am not talking down to you. I was in that same place. I understand where you're at. I cannot go to where you're at, but I can do everything in my power to be a gleaming example of how you can get to where I'm at, because it is possible. I promise you. However, I have forgiven myself, which was necessary to be able to move forward. Changing my thinking has allowed me to transform this tactic into a skill with my outreach to others and the community. Incredible. I renovated the art of manipulation into something more positive, helpful, and effective. I do not refer to this as manipulation anymore, but rather than influence. That's incredible. That's inspiring. It's important to think about what kind of an influence we're having on people. For me, that was the influence I had on my little brother. You know, when I was younger, I had no idea what an impact the influence I had on him. It's crazy, man. When you get into a place to where you're able to have a positive influence on people, it also it also made me think about all the negative things that I've done as well and how far that ripple effect could travel. But I can't dwell on that because I know now that that can be said for the opposite. I now have an opportunity for my ripple effect to be positive, and we were born in such a unique time where we have the ability to reach millions of people with a message. I'm sitting in a room somewhere a million miles away from somebody that might get to hear this message and might be inspired by it. I just think that's incredible. That's incredible. And it's had such a profound effect on my life. I get feedback on these videos and on some of the other things that I do outside of this, and I try to carry that attitude with me everywhere I go. I work in the trades, and boy, is there a lot of misery in the trades, and it's really easy to start acting and feeling like the people you surround yourself with, right? That's why it's important to be aware of that and to go into a place like where you work and be the light, because there's enough darkness. There's plenty of it. There's no shortage of darkness out there. So be the light. Be the light wherever you go. You never know how something you can say could change somebody's day. It's incredible. I am so grateful to be able to say that. To anyone who's watching these videos, thank you. Thank you. I think I'm over 160 subscribers. Last time we talked, I was at like 147. I'm at 160 something subscribers right now. That is so cool. I'm going to keep checking in with you guys every episode, and we're going to talk about where I'm at. So just thank you so much for the support. Anyone who's watching this, anyone who hit subscribe, I love you. And anyone who hasn't hit subscribe yet, I still love you, and I'm waiting for you. I ain't going nowhere. All right? You got time, but don't wait too long. Okay. I do not refer to this as manipulation anymore, but rather influence. I am now a master of influence over my own experiences, and in doing so, I am able to inspire others. Let's go. Let's go. Not persuade, convince, deceive, or manipulate, just inspire through the influence of setting an example. I have found that inspiration is much more powerful force than manipulation. You catch more bees with honey than vinegar, or however that saying goes. But it's true. It's true. I'm so happy to be able to say that I can go anywhere and be happy, you know? And something else I want to share with you. So I came across this this guy who was talking about addiction, and he was saying The craving for drugs and alcohol is a lower level manifestation of human beings' thirst for a union with God or the Creator or whatever you can put in the place of the word God, right? For me, it's God. It doesn't matter what you say though. Okay. At the end of the day, I added this. At the end of the day, we're all just human beings trying to feel okay because that's true. Think about it. You know what I mean? Like, I remember having this revelation when we were talking about people that were addicted to stimulants. And I believe, how hard it is for the people who are trying to recover from stimulants because of, like, when I learned about more about like the science and how that all works and the effects it has on our dopamine and the way our brains are wired. Man, it's like you I just my heart goes out to the people who are trying to recover from stimulants because you do so much damage to those natural dopamine receptors by dumping artificial synthetic happiness and energy and whatever into your brain with the stimulants that, like, it's going to be hard. Like, I don't want to say that to like discourage anybody from trying to get help, but like, we are all just human beings trying to feel okay. That's it. That I need to make a shirt that says that, because like I feel like that's such a simple sentence, but it really means so much. Like, think about that. We are all just human beings trying to feel okay, and that looks different for everybody. You know, Try to keep that in mind when somebody's rude to you. It's probably not personal. 99.999% of the times, it's not. It has nothing to do with you. So. At our core, whether we realize it or not, we search for a profound sense of self transcendence, aka a higher purpose. For me, I can say that I believe God preserved me through heroin addiction so that I could do exactly what I'm doing right now. And it's created a higher purpose for me. It's created something that, instead of using drugs and alcohol to get outside of myself, now I can use the negative things and all the tough stuff I went to try to inspire somebody else and show them, hey, look at me over here. You can do this too. And I'm not talking about, I'm not saying everyone wants to be a YouTuber or whatever you want to call what I'm doing, but like, you can relate that to anything, right? And I believe that, like, there's no higher purpose or higher calling than to serve other people. So that's what I got for today. And this made me so happy. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for watching this. If you're going through it, remember, you don't got to do this alone. I would love to do anything I can do to help. Please reach out. I can help you find resources in your area. Anything I could do, I would love to help you. And if you have a story or something you want to share, you can email us at thegandyshow@gmail.com. I would be honored to share anything with my audience and talk about how I relate to it, and we can grow together. And, yeah, that's what I got for today. So if no one told you they love you, I love you. I'm out.